with a brand new show kicking off 2022 with the Healing is Possible experience. What I always say is, you know that you're healed in whatever area of your life that you're looking for healing in when it doesn't hurt anymore, when it hurts emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, financially, sexually, you name it, there's healing to do. Period. End of story. And this is actually good news, because when you're willing and committed to healing, you get more freedom. And today's episode of the Healing is Possible experience, we are talking about the practice of what I call emotional healing. I firmly believe with all of my heart and soul that the world needs you healed so that you can make your difference. My work is for the difference makers, the ones that definitely know on a cellular and spiritual level that there's more, that there is a way that life could be that just isn't quite happening yet for us, for those we love, for our families. And my work is the roadmap that has worked for me to be emotionally healed so that I can make my difference. And in 2022, I'm taking it all the way. This has been 2 decades, 2 decades of my life coming up with the emotional healing paradigm and literally the stepping stones to close the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Again, I can't emphasize it enough. The world needs you healed so that you can make your difference. So again, today we're going to do a lot of talking about emotional healing. And we're going to do a lot of talking about some real steps, some real tangibles that you can take and make that might be a little different than what you expect. Before I get into more of the practice of emotional healing, just a reminder, this show is not meant to replace any personal growth work or therapy that you're already doing. It's meant to enhance it. So stick with your practitioners. And if you don't have one, find one to take what you get here to a whole new level. It's one thing to read a book. It's one thing to listen to a podcast or a TV show or a radio show and get some new information. It's another thing to learn how to integrate that information, meaning you've actually become the person that lives it without even thinking about it. That's what integration is. It's where you've become the person that is so embodying the new information that it's now how you're living. Okay, everybody with me there? So the practice of emotional healing, it literally starts with one thing, and it's called commitment. And that's a word that scares people. I just had a couples intensive with a couple last Friday that both have been married 3 times. And they are so committed to love that they're really working on this third marriage, and they are committing to the practice of emotional healing and to themselves and to each other in a major way. Without commitment, there's no life. There's no movement. Okay. So I'm inviting you in to the Healing is Possible experience with me, which is the experience I have every second, every moment, every day of my life. A healing is possible experience, regardless of what I've been through, everything from a domestic violence marriage to cancer and a pretty dark childhood that gave me everything I needed to get here now. I see every moment as a spiritual opportunity for a spiritual healed experience. And I think all a spiritual experience is a healed experience, meaning you don't need that moment to be any different than it was or is, or that you fear it could be, because you're so solid within yourself. Now, the Healing is Possible experience. What are we up to with this show this year? Well, first of all, you're going to hear a lot from me, like today. I'll do some teaching. I'll do some if we're honest, motivating and inspiring, not because I'm here to be your cheerleader. I am here to be a big fan on your team, but I'm not here to like rah cheerlead you into more and more freedom. I'm here to go, listen, it's possible. Now, who are you going to be? That's different than what are you going to do? You hear the difference? What are you going to be? who are you going to be is much different than what are you going to do. The doing, that's last on our list. But unfortunately, that's where most people want to start. They want strategy, they want mindset, they want action. This isn't that. So in the Healing is Possible experience, you will see me teaching you different ways to be. Okay. And you will also hear me interview. Okay. So if you're someone with a big life purpose, if you're someone that really wants to, make your difference in the most healed and impactful way possible in your lifetime, and you have a story to tell and you have a message you want to get out there into the world, happy to talk to you about interviewing you to get you out there. My shows have always been about giving other healers and leaders and teachers and influencers in the world a platform to tell their stories. So if you have a story, if you have a message, reach out. Definitely room for you and I to go toe to toe in the Healing is Possible experience. And then finally, I am very, very, very much wanting to use this show and this platform this year to coach for free any volunteers that are interested in what I call a breakthrough. What I mean by breakthrough is you've become a new version of yourself. Not that we've thrown the baby out with the bathwater. No, that's not the point. But what we've done is we've broken through a limitation, whether that limitation is a pattern, a belief, a story, a stuck emotion, a stuck young age, triggers and patterns, and where we're unhealed, they get louder. They repeat until we get a breakthrough, meaning we become a version of ourselves that in that same set of circumstances, we're not feeling harmed anymore or upset anymore by the situation, right? This is the secret sauce. This is the magic. This is what it's literally taken me 20 years to develop as a practice that I am ready and willing and committed to putting out there into the world. There is a way that you can be where you're never harmed again. I just want you to take that in. There is literally a way that you can be in whatever scenario you find yourself in now, or whatever scenarios you've been through before that still haunt you, or even in scenarios that haven't happened that just keep you up at night and terrify you, right? That happens too. So whatever it is that's got that chokehold on you still, whether it's loud or a whisper, you and I know it's there, whether you talk about it or not. That's what I'm talking about in terms of where the practice of emotional healing needs to be applied if you want more freedom, right? Suffering, we've heard it a million times, a million different ways. It's optional. But most people don't know how to do anything but manage their lives beyond that suffering, right? We live in spite of it. We live, managing it. We live wanting more, but not committed to being the person it would take to create more, not in terms of stuff, but in terms of a new experience of freedom in the same situations. So some of you know me, some of you have been around the decades that I've been putting myself out there. Some of you are newer, some of you are just meeting me now on whatever platform you're watching this. And here's what you can know. I'm not saying I'm the hero. I'm saying you are. And what I've done is I've become my own hero, and I have become the person that created the life I always imagined. And I'm not saying this to sound arrogant. I'm saying it because it's true. My life is exactly how I want it. And there was a time in my life where I felt the same way, but in a different way of being. It's been 7 years now. When I had a private practice, I had a great second marriage, I had an amazing daughter that was just the motivator, for me to have gotten my shit together and decided that I was going to be a woman who led her life in a healthier way to model for my daughter. All of what I had wanted, all of what I had worked for, it was coming together. I had a radio show, I had a private practice that was booked out 6 months, and some of you have heard this story, but hear it again if you've already heard it, because the point is, back then, 7 years ago, I thought I had done all of this work to get to a finish line where all the hard stuff was behind me. I don't feel that way now. I am very clear that the more I commit to growth and getting the most out of my life today, the more challenges are coming. Not because I'm getting punished or, getting my ass kicked, needing some breakdown to break through. That's not the point. I don't think it has to be hard. I have thought that for a long time, not anymore. I just know that I'm going to be confronted with everything in the way of me knowing who to be, how to be, and what to commit to as I am in uncharted waters, growing again and again and again. Every time my life grows to a new level of impact, of joy, of freedom, of service, of leadership, whatever it is, I got to learn how to walk all over again in waters that I don't know how to swim in. I don't know how to walk in. I don't know how to dance in. I don't know how to be comfortable in. I don't know how to play in yet. So 7 years ago, I thought really naive and really arrogant and really, innocent too, that I did this work. I got it figured out. Now there's life on the other side of all the hard stuff. Well, what happened was I got pregnant with my second daughter and I got cancer. I got my ass kicked on every level. I'm talking on every level. I got my ass kicked. I decided I didn't know who I was. I decided I didn't know what I believed in. I decided that, all of the abuse and trauma that I thought I had healed, maybe I didn't. Maybe none of it worked. The hundreds of seminars, the, years and years and years and years of weekly coaching and hundreds of thousands of dollars that I didn't have as a broke single mom, that I somehow, working 3 jobs and blood, sweat, and tears, found a way to manifest so that I could get the training, so that I could get the growth, so that I could get the, mentors and the gurus and the guidance to help me get where I had gotten to. It was, talk about a reality check with cancer. It was the seminar I had been training for and preparing for. And the blessing was that, I learned how to live like I was going to live, even while I was being told I was dying. I learned that there's no finish line when it comes to our growth. None, not one, right? There's not a moment in time and a perfect way of growing into being the person that gets to no longer struggle in this lifetime at all, period, end of story. All the bad stuff, all the hard stuff's behind you. It's not possible. What's possible, though, is to experience what you used to see as bad and hard and challenging, or, whatever your word for those moments that have brought you to your knees, leveled you, or shaken you up have been. The moments can be experienced differently, right? But they also can be really hard if we think that growth and life have to be hard. But there's just no way, if you want a life where you want to be as healed as possible so you can make your biggest difference in this world. And that's the audience I'm talking to. It's that simple. Not everybody wants that. And it's not bad. People want inspiration and they want to feel good. And I love that. But the way I've learned how to stay inspired and feel good is by being the best of me, regardless of circumstances. And it wasn't real that when I got diagnosed with cancer, I had done anything wrong. It wasn't my fault. But more than that, it wasn't real that the hard stuff was behind me, or that I had somehow, defeated and defied the odds of, never having to get confronted again on a really profound level. I think ultimately, I've never thought about it this way. It's just coming to me now. What I had thought was that I was going to be ahead of what used to kick my ass for the rest of my life because of all the work that I had done. And we still get blindsided. That's my ultimate point here. We still get blindsided. And all that means is we're in uncharted waters. It doesn't mean we've done anything wrong or that we're being punished or that we're not capable. I think the number one most important thing I can say to all of you watching this, whether you're with me live or in the replay, and please, if you're watching this live, I want to hear from you. What are you taking away from what I'm saying so far? What are your questions? What's confronting you? And I want to shake you up, by the way. I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to say what you maybe haven't heard yet that could actually change the game for you faster than you can even comprehend. We think it has to be hard. We think it has to take a bunch of time. Bullshit. No, it doesn't have to be hard and it doesn't have to take a lot of time, but there are going to be moments that blindside you because you're in new territory. You're in another level of leading and living that you're not used to yet. That's it. So again, when I got sick, I had thought I had it all figured out for the rest of my life. I was 34 and naive. And no, it wasn't going to end like that. Like I had all, the work behind me and become the master, and life was going to be smooth sailing from that point forward. And I'm just being honest with you about where my headspace was back then, because I don't think I'm alone. I think a lot of healers and leaders and influencers and teachers think, you know what? I've done all this so that I can have mastery around my area of expertise. And then maybe that means some of the hard stuff's behind me. And I'm just teaching the people in front of me that are going through the hard times that, I know how to help them. And that's wonderful. And that could be true for you or for some of you. But the thing is, I know that for me, when life tried to level me again, or at least that's what I was making up back then, now I just know that life was being life, and take this and really chew on what I'm saying. I don't think anything is happening to us. And I absolutely do not believe that anything is happening for us. I just think life's life. And then you get to decide who you're going to be, right? But I think when we're difference makers out there in the world and we get confronted, it's really easy to go into guilt or shame or of a self-sabotaging way of being with yourself that thinks, wait a minute, where did I screw up? Wait a minute, what did I do wrong? And I just want to be the voice that says to you, you didn't screw up and you didn't do anything wrong. You're just ready for a next level of healing so that you can be at a next level of making your difference. You didn't do anything wrong. And it's not your fault. It's just life being life. And then now you get to decide who you're going to be. That simple. Not easy at all, but that's simple. So what if it doesn't have to be this hard? And what if we don't have to put so much pressure on ourselves to have been, farther along than we really are? It's okay. In the practice of emotional healing, we learn how to meet ourselves where we are. And until and unless you know how to meet you where you are, you can't meet another person where they are. I'll say that one more time. Until and unless you're able to meet you where you are, really, not where you think you should be, not where you are manipulating the results to try to feel like you're farther than you actually are. But I'm talking like really meeting yourself where you really are. I had to sit alone in a doctor's office with my client, who was the doctor. I was coaching my client, hearing the words that the cancer was malignant. I had a mole on my arm, got taken off, got biopsied. I thought, well, if it's skin cancer, and yeah, it looks weird, so maybe it is skin cancer, don't you just cut it out? I mean, could I be any whiter? Right? Like I never tan, tons of sunscreen my whole freaking life. And like this body had not seen the sun. So I had so many misconceptions about cancer. I thought my family, heart disease all over the place. Cancer, not really. And skin cancer, no one. And me, who I had great skin. It was like the one part of my body I was really proud of was always I had great skin. I never really had acne. Like I just had skin. Been called Snow White my whole life. And guess what? Time to get a reality check, right? Skin cancer, melanoma, what I had, can happen to anybody. It's not necessarily caused by tanning or too much sun. It's something that happens. Again, life was just being life. And I just happened to be someone that had malignant skin cancer. But again, I didn't understand. I didn't know that cancer cells, it's literally, it's like a glacier, right? Like you see the surface, but there's so much more going on beneath the surface. And this left arm, this is exactly where the top of my left arm, this mole was that changed and grew when I was pregnant. And I just thought, well, can't you just cut it off? Can't you just take it out and then I'm fine? And statistically, that actually should have been mostly, the most likely outcome, but it wasn't. I was told 95% chance at stage 1, and we're going to cut from your shoulder to your elbow down to the bone. We're going to take all the margins. We can't stage you while you're pregnant, because to stage you, we have to inject radiation or radioactive fluid into your spot where this cancerous mole was, to see if it drains into lymph nodes. And if it does, and we find out that there's cancer in the lymph nodes, that means it's really aggressive, and that's a whole different animal. But 95% shot, you're stage 1. Well, I was the freaking 5%. So here's me thinking, okay, life beyond all my trauma. I'm there. Now I just get to help everybody and I'm in the clear. No. And then so many lessons with cancer. I want us to get that we're not statistics. Cancer taught me how to really bring words to this practice of emotional healing that I was living and developing and learning all these years, that I just didn't have words for. And it was the seminar that had the rubber meet the road for me, right? It wasn't about, there was literally nothing I could do, nothing. I had to wait from the time I was diagnosed at 7 months pregnant until that baby was born at 38 weeks before they could stage me. And they had to wait 3 weeks after the baby was born because I needed a little time to recover from the emergency C-section that they took her out early, to stage me as soon as possible. And then there was cancer in a lymph node. And again, I didn't know these cancer cells are so much deeper and more powerful and aggressive than I could ever understand. And smart, by the way. I had smart cancer. Luckily, I was held by angels. And even though I had the most aggressive type of melanoma and really terrible odds, and was being told the only options for me were going to be chemotherapy, and we better write my will. And I've got a 9-year-old daughter looking at me saying, great, great. My dad's out of the picture. And now you're going to die. I mean, there was nothing to do. The only thing that I had control over was how emotionally healed I was moment to moment and who I was being. That's it. That's all. That's literally all I could control. And I figured out really fast that I could control those things, that I could control, okay, emotionally, how healed am I? Where is there still cancer going on in my life that I am inviting in or not addressing or just not wanting to look at all? And who am I going to be? Who am I going to be? And I've been saying for years before I got sick, the work I do with my company, Inspired Results, has people get raw, get real, get messy, and then they grow. And this was where it was time to apply everything that I wanted to be, because I didn't have any idea how much life I had left. And I was being told left and right, not much. 34. Terrifying, terrifying. And what came out of my experience with cancer was so much clarity about how much I wanted to live. The chemo that I was on, I ultimately quit. Some of you know that story, some of you don't. I was getting drop foot, my right leg. All the nerves in my right leg were dying as a side effect of this chemo that I was on. It was literally killing the nerves down my leg. And so I was fading fast. I was fading fast and it was so scary. And I always have amazing coaches. I've got an amazing team of coaches right now. I've always had an amazing team of coaches, but I'll never forget the day that I was doing a coaching session with my coach. And by the way, I paid a coach the whole time I was sick because I had, again, two things I could control: my emotional wellness status and who I was being. That was it. So this one day I'm talking to my coach and literally I can't walk. I can't move. I'm fading so fast and I'm 4 months into chemo and I'm supposed to do another 8. I was supposed to do chemo for a year. The first month, it was 5 days of IV infusions. And then I had chemo shots that I had to give myself. And it was supposed to be for 11 months. I made it 3 and I was dying. And I'm not suggesting, as part of the practice of emotional healing, that you make hasty, rash decisions that, put yourself or other people at risk. In this case, I did my research. I really, 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 really profoundly tapped into my internal guidance system. I didn't just do what some coach told me to do. I connected to my internal guidance system. And that's the point. That's what a good coach does. They don't give you the answers. They help you find the answers. And my coach at the time, it was Heather Steele, did that for me. Helped me connect to my inner guidance system, knowing I got to quit. The only reason to stay on this trajectory, continuing to inject myself with chemo shots that are having my body die faster, is because I'm afraid. And because at that time, there was no other alternative. I mean, amazing how much science has evolved since the time I got sick to now, 7 years later. Now there's more treatment, but wasn't then. That was it. Is chemo or watch and wait. They'd already done 12 surgeries to cut off any part of my body and cut out any part of my body, including 2 huge chunks of my vagina being cut out because there were 2 moles, one on the outside, one on the inside around my vagina that didn't look right. They literally have me under a black light and a magnifying glass every 3 to 6 months, and they cut off any part of my body that looks even slightly suspicious. That's how this works. So, it wasn't fun. And it was really happening. And the only things I could do were focus on my emotional well-being, my emotional healing, and who I was being. And I made the really hard call to quit chemo because I had focused and connected so deeply to my internal guidance system. And I knew that was the right answer. And man, boom, did I start coming back to life. I also had tons of holistic practitioners and healers. And if you go to my YouTube channel, Rebeccah Silence, you can see more interviews with Authority Magazine, more videos on my cancer journey. The point of today is to just emphasize how important learning the practice of emotional healing is if you want a life where you're free and having a blast. And so back then, I thought I was doing all this work to put the hard stuff behind me. Now I see it different. Now I see it where I'm going to get confronted as long as I'm alive. And thank God, I look at every trigger as an opportunity, again, a spiritual opportunity for a spiritual experience where I get to be more. Every single trigger. That's how I look at it. I swear to you. Every single one. I'm like, okay, this doesn't need to be different. My favorite quote to this day is Jim Rohn saying, "Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better." And that's how I approach when I get confronted. But when I'm confronted, I know, okay, I'm still alive. Okay, I'm still alive. Okay, who am I going to be? Okay, nothing's happening to me. Nothing's happening for me. It's just life being life. Now what? Who am I going to be? Okay, so that's life hack 1 today for you when it comes to the practice of emotional healing. And then I'm going to teach you a 3-step process to take yourself through anytime you start to feel shaken up or leveled. And again, remember, it doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It's not your fault. There's nothing, when you get confronted and feel shaky, there's literally nothing to be ashamed about. And shame isn't that helpful. It's going to keep you stuck and suffering and in a low vibration. And what's needed to break through, meaning moving through the stuck into the new possibility and your next level of life, is you at your best, highest vibration that you can possibly access in that moment. I always say, your best is enough. The question is, are you letting yourself off the hook? And if you are, don't be ashamed about that either. That's just self-protection mode, right? So what the practice of emotional healing has given to me, that now I want to be the world's spokesperson for, is this ability to know, okay, life is being life, can't change it, but I do have full control over, all right, who am I going to be? And instead of looking at the practice of emotional healing as a way out of the hard stuff, here's what it's become for me now. I'm so excited to share this with you today. Now it's just about life beyond survival mode. So I can live as the lightest, brightest, best of me, the highest version of me, regardless of circumstances, out of survival mode. Survival mode can be in your dust. Just know that as you keep living and growing, you're going to keep getting confronted, and that can be less and less and less difficult and challenging and brutal and hard, as long as you're not committed to being the version of you that's still protecting yourself and in survival mode and shame-based and guilty and all that crazy nonsense. Now, I know, I know it's real, the hard moments. I know anxiety is real. I know depression is real, especially now. We're still in a freaking pandemic. It's calendar year 3 of a pandemic. All this is real, but you can be a version of yourself that's not living in survival mode anymore, meaning your survival personality that you created in your childhood to survive your childhood doesn't have to be the one trying to lead you out of the dark and into the light. You can be the you want to be that probably, maybe you haven't even met yet, that's leading your life, not the version of you in survival mode. So again, life's going to be life. There's where you are now. There's where you want to be. The practice of emotional healing can help you close that gap. But if you're trying to close the gap with everything you've learned about mindset and strategy and how to manage the pain in your survival personality that is operating in survival mode, this is going to take a lot longer, and it's going to be a lot harder, and it's going to be a lot more painful. So what I want you to know is it doesn't have to be that painful, and it can actually happen fast. Rapid growth is available to you, right? Sometimes in, the more spiritual world, people call it quantum leaping. It's available to you, but it requires a version of you you might not be that comfortable with yet. And it requires a version of you that you maybe haven't met yet because you haven't created that version of you. So another thing I like to say and teach as part of the practice of emotional healing and as part of my work in my private practice, in my retreats, and in all of my courses and offerings, if you're worried about, I don't know who I am yet, I haven't found myself yet, I'm looking to find myself, I want to challenge you to make a new commitment today, a different decision. And that decision is to choose who you're going to be now. This alone has changed my life. I've been a leader leading from fake masculine in my past. I've been, wearing like a badge of honor all of my pain and all of my trauma and all of my struggle in the past. I've been, making life really hard and exhausting and trying to prove myself. Like there's so many seasons and versions of Rebeccah that I'm just being honest about with you today that I love, I accept, I adore actually all those versions and seasons of me, but that's not the me I want to be anymore, because it doesn't have to be like that. There's nothing to prove. There's no badge of honor for, how much trauma I've been through that needs to be glorified. There's no award for, making life as hard as possible and getting through it. My first coach, Carol Reynolds, used to say, get off the cross, we need the wood, right? Like that, I think is hysterical and really actually very serious and very true. So my point is, whoever you've been, however you've been, know it was your best. But from a new level of awareness, if you go back into the same old, because you are more comfortable there, because you are more confident there, right? I used to be in abusive relationships with men, and I used to say it's like the same guy, different dick. Like it's literally the same experience over and over and over of me with abusive men. But here's the deal. That was a lot of me contributing to that abuse cycle. But I needed to be the wounded victim with the bad guy that was hurting me to somehow feel powerful. I was comfortable there, right? And so the thing is, we've been comfortable in our survival personality up until this point. And when survival mode and the survival personality take over, it's just happening, not because there's anything wrong with us or because we're doing anything wrong, because we know how to survive from that place of being that version of ourselves. But what we don't know yet is how to be in that moment as the version of ourselves that's living and experiencing life beyond survival mode. There is life beyond survival mode. There is life beyond survival mode, but you are going to have to choose a new beingness, a new way of being, a new version of yourself, and a new identity if you're going to experience life beyond survival mode as the highest version of you that is healed so that you can make your difference. Not easy, but it is this simple. So again, if you're worried about finding yourself, if you're like, I don't know who I am, I don't know. I don't even know what I want or what I like. And I have found over the years, coaching hundreds, thousands of people one-on-one, working with hundreds of thousands in my audiences. One of the biggest pieces of kryptonite that I've seen for healers is they're often so focused on everybody else, they don't necessarily even know what they want. They know what their survival personality likes and is used to, but they don't necessarily know, like on a soul level, inner guidance system activated, turned all the way up, what they want, what they need, what takes care of them, what lights up their, life and makes their soul sing. So when I say to you that today my life is exactly how I want it, it's because it is, meaning I know what makes my soul sing, and I get to experience that every single day. And I get my ass kicked, but it's not as hard as it used to be. And I'm not as shame-based as I used to be. And I have more fun knowing, okay, there's freedom on the other side of this. All right, let's go. Let's roll up my sleeves. Let's be the best of me in this moment, the most loving me in this moment. There's nothing to defend. There's nothing to prove. Game on. Bring it. That's why I'm saying my life's exactly how I want it. I love my marriage. I'm so proud of it. I love my kids, 17, 7. I love my life in my sweet little town in Colorado. But more than any of that, I love my bring it approach. And that's what I want for you with the practice of emotional healing in your back pocket, is you knowing that there's life beyond survival mode, you knowing that really the only thing to do is focus on who you're being and how emotionally healed you are, and to know nothing's happening to you. It's just life happening, and bring it. I'm going to use this moment as an opportunity to be more of a version of myself that I can be proud of, that maybe I've met before, maybe I haven't, but that I'm cultivating. And the thing I want you to know and understand is that you're so capable. You're so much more capable than you give yourself credit for. I guarantee it. And I would love for you to just say it out loud. I am so much more capable than I freaking give myself credit for. And enough is enough with that. We have only survived 100% of the most difficult and painful and challenging moments of our lives. Every single one of us. every single one of you. We've survived them all. But we don't know how to live as the version of ourselves that isn't waiting for the other shoe to drop, that doesn't know how to break up with self-protection mode, that doesn't know how to create a personality that is the best of you now, that you're proud of, that you choose, that you embrace, that you commit to just because you can, instead of living in your survival personality and survival mode over and over and over again. So I'm here as the voice of possibility that sees you, that sees how capable you are, and that sees that you have a difference that you want to make, and that you've got everything you need in you to make that happen. We just don't necessarily have the practice of emotional healing down yet, or know that path yet. And if everything I've ever been through gave me the gift of the roadmap of emotional healing as a practice so that I can give it to you, the one that sees what life could be and has never been wrong about that, by the way. Nothing's wrong with you. You're not crazy. Nothing is wrong with you. And you are not crazy. You just don't have evidence yet that what you've seen as possible actually is possible. And I've got news for you. You're just the one that's going to have to create it, because it's your vision. It's your difference. No healer, guide, coach, therapist can tell you how to make your vision happen. They can just guide you in getting through as much of your pain and trauma that's still holding you hostage as possible, so that the higher version of you can connect to your inner guidance system and go make some shit happen out there in the world that we need you to go make happen, especially now. Year 3 of a pandemic. I'm so proud of you. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for watching. And what I want to leave you with today's Kickoff Healing is Possible experience episode is 2 things. First, one more time, an invitation to join me, to tell your story, to share your message me, and we'll see if it's a good fit. Or if you're out there feeling alone, feeling shaky, feeling stuck, in pain, whatever the deal is, maybe you're just like, why am I not more fulfilled when I have everything I want? Join me. Let's do an episode of the Healing is Possible experience together, do some breakthrough work, and show some people what's possible through your courage. Message me. I'd love to work with you. Every Tuesday, 10 a.m. Mountain, we'll be doing the Healing is Possible experience this year. You'll get me, like episodes like today, where I'm just teaching and sharing and serving myself. You'll get episodes where I'll be interviewing, and then you'll get episodes where I'm coaching. And I would love to interview and coach you. So all you got to do is DM me and we will get that ball rolling. Now, the second thing I wanted to leave you with today is my new 3-step process to make your triggers your bitch. Okay. Likely, right? Any moment that you're struggling on any level, doesn't matter how much of a whisper level it is, or if it's all the way to a crisis, this 3-step process to making your triggers your bitch will apply. But the deal is, when you're confronted, meaning you're out of your depth, you're not rooted, you're not grounded, you're not really clear on what your inner guidance system is knowing is the best for you in that moment. And when we know what the best is for ourselves in a moment, guess what happens? We get to be our best for others. The point of getting as emotionally healed as possible is so we can be our best for others. Like that's the whole reason I'm doing this. That's the whole reason I'm going out of my way to shout from the mountaintops. Literally, I live in the mountains. The mountains are right behind my house here, that healing is possible and that the world needs you healed so you can make your difference. The point is, get healed so you can make your difference. It's bigger than you. All of our lives are bigger than ourselves. Our lives are about being our best for others, but we have to be our best for ourselves first. That's where it gets really confusing. So when you get triggered, upset, confronted, you call it whatever you want, you are basically, instead of knowing how to make your triggers your bitch, your triggers have made you their bitch. Everybody with me? So I'm trying to make all of this as unattractive as possible for you today. And I hope you'll share this video with your friends, with your family, with your coworkers, that you also see as leaders in the world that are maybe not having enough fun, or maybe they're not feeling as free as they want to, or maybe they're just not making the impact and the difference that you see for them, that they want for themselves. So like this, share this, comment, let us know what you're taking away. But I'm here to say, episode 1 of the Healing is Possible experience, it's time that you learn how to make your triggers your bitch. So here's how you do it. Okay. It's 3 steps. So step 1, it's funny. Every time I think about, the step 1, I think New Kids on the Block. Step 1, we can have lots of fun. So this process is about learning how to have more fun, because you know how to make your triggers your bitch, and you're no longer at the effect of your triggers. So step 1, and I'm going to make this so simple, and you might want to fight me. It might confront you even more. That's okay. Take what you want and leave the rest. This is what's worked for me. It's what's worked for my clients. I just facilitated an incredible group of 20 women in Colorado Springs at our first ever Healing is Possible Women's Weekend. Taught them this. It worked like a charm for them. Not easy, but doable and possible. And I just want to give it to you so you have it in your toolkit. So step 1, there's nothing to do except acknowledge and own, I'm triggered, while you trust that there's life on the other side of the trigger. So step 1, you're owning it and you're trusting there's life on the other side of the trigger. There's nothing to do. That's it. You're just acknowledging it, which automatically de-escalates the amount of power this trigger has over you. And triggers can be people, situations, beliefs. I mean, they can show up in so many different ways. Sometimes it's road rage out of nowhere, but I want you to really consider that it's never another person or a situation that's your problem, ever. We want to blame. We want to find the cause of our pain outside of ourselves. But the problem with that is it keeps you powerless. It keeps you at the effect of the world, in survival mode, your survival personality, kicking your ass and living as less than the you could be. So I'm, a big believer in self-responsibility. Another thing I say is that the mission is healing. The cure is always self-responsibility. People are not going to always embrace or understand or support you the way you want. You're going to be misunderstood. You're going to be criticized, especially if you're putting yourself out there as a difference maker in the world. And if you're here, I got news for you. You're a difference maker in the world. So again, it's never the other person or the situation. I want you to really consider that as I take you through the next two steps. So again, step 1, you're owning it and you're trusting that there's life on the other side of the trigger as a better, stronger, more powerful version of yourself. You're never better than other people, but you can be better than the version of you that's been stuck in survival in whatever capacity that looks like for you in that moment. So step 2, this is the hardest one, but it's the game changer. What I want you to do is just breathe and feel into, like literally breathe in the upset. So say you're anxious. You notice in a moment, your trigger is anxiety. I want you to breathe in the anxiety. I want you to get closer to it because it gives you more power and the trigger less. It seems counterintuitive. It seems a little nuts, but I'm telling you, that's the game changer. So you're going to breathe in the trigger and then you're going to breathe it out, and you're going to breathe in the trigger. And then you're going to look for, and in an upcoming episode, I'll get into the difference between feelings and emotions. But what I'm wanting you to really consider is that the trigger is an experience you're having. It doesn't define you. And until and unless you'll breathe into that discomfort and start to feel your way through it, it's going to have a chokehold on you. And it doesn't need to. All right. And quite literally, when we're triggered, we're fighting with a ghost. Our past trauma, wounds, whatever it is, upsets are being reactivated right here, right now. And it's an opportunity, again, for you to be more of a version of yourself that you can be proud of and that you want to be. It's not a punishment or anything happening to you or beating you down. But what we don't want to do is feel into the pain and discomfort. We want to avoid it. So instead of avoiding conflicting triggers, I want you to have that bring it approach. So step 2, you're breathing into it and you're feeling what you don't want to feel until you start to notice that energy move. Might not go away all the way yet, but it's going to start to move. In step 3, this is hard, but it's simple. Another game changer. You recognize that that experience you're having, that trigger, that upset, whatever it is an experience that you've been committed to having and available for. Meaning, it's not my fault, right? That I'm experiencing myself as powerless to cancer when that's happened to me in my past or happened in my past. But when I notice whatever it is that is going on in me isn't just this moment, it's a pattern, I can start to see it as a commitment. So, for example, I had a mother and a daughter I coached once. Daughter was in residential treatment because she was violent and suicidal. Mother, her whole life was about her daughter. Daughter's 30. I come in. We get the daughter pretty solid into her own apartment, into a job, college, learning how to drive. Unbelievable story. Took some years, but we got there. Mother had thought this situation with her daughter, the abuse cycle with her daughter, that was the problem. Well, as soon as everything starts to get better and the, sun comes out and suddenly she doesn't have to worry about the daughter anymore, she gets ganged up on at work. She'd had this job for 25 years in management, never had a problem with work. The issue was always her daughter. So see, what we do is we compartmentalize our way through our triggers and we think, okay, it's this area of my life that's the problem. It's this person. But again, patterns repeat until they heal. I can't emphasize this enough. You don't have to believe me. But I really hope you'll look for it as not more ammunition to use against yourself, but as access to more freedom. So this woman was committed to abusive relationships with women, and the cheese moved. Right? So I want you to see your triggers as an experience that you've been available for and committed to, not your fault. Your survival personality has been trying to protect you. Your survival personality has been trying to get ahead of the upsets. And often it's a blind zone and it's unconscious. Sometimes it's conscious, but mostly the work with me is very, very unconscious. And we're bringing consciousness to what's been unconscious. So see your triggers as a commitment that is no longer serving you. Right. So recently, I am very aware of my commitment to working so hard that I'm exhausted. And I've given it up for 2022. I'm making a new commitment that my work is energizing and it's always been enjoyable and a blast, but not exhausting because I work so much. I'm done with exhausted. That was another badge of honor that I have been committed to without realizing it, that now that I do, it doesn't serve me anymore. So again, 3 steps to making your triggers your bitch. You own it and you trust that there's life beyond the trigger. You breathe into it, you lean closer, and you feel what you don't want to feel until the energy starts to shift. And hot tip with this second step, I'm not asking you to go in it more. I'm asking you to be with it. Right? So there's a difference. Be with it versus in it. And again, you get more power back. More on that in future episodes. And then step 3, you're identifying the commitment you've been in and you're making a new commitment. So instead of exhaustion, I want full on energy. And I'm committed to that. I am committed to high energy and high vibration in moments where in the past I would have been exhausted, because when I was exhausted, I had power in that before in my survival personality's brain. But what I know now is the more exhausted I am, less and less and less powerful. So I'm shaking it up today. It's not going to give you all your answers, but you can make your triggers your bitch. You can practice emotional healing when all else fails. And what you can know is that healing is possible and the world needs you healed so that you can make your difference. It has been an honor to serve you today. I'm Rebeccah Silence. If you enjoyed this episode, like it, share it, message me. If you want to be a guest on a future episode, please reach out and let's make it happen. One more time. The world needs you healed so that you can make your difference. I see you. I honor you. I love you. More to come. Let's have a great year together, everybody.